At time with Jordan. Is this mic on? The mic is live. Alright, we are ready to go. Footy talk. Alright. On the radio, let's talk footy. Yes, this is AI. Keen to get started. Pump those ratings up high. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Alrighty guys, welcome back to another episode of Airtime with Jordan. I'm your host Jordan Fasso, and there is the new intro, and it still slaps in my opinion, so that's going to be a keeper, as I said in the last one. But today we are going to be talking North Melbourne Kangaroos, and yeah, going through their season last year a little bit, having a look at the ins and outs for the year. Looking through some of the expectations I have for them, what to look out for, and then some of the players to watch as well. I've only got one that I really want to keep an eye on going into the year, and then finish off with giving my projection on the ladder for them as well. So with that being said, let's get underway. We have the review section, and last year they went 3-20 on the year, 3 wins, 20 losses, of course that is, and finished 17th on the ladder. So it was another year of rebuilding for North, but I think that they definitely saw some signs of just general development throughout the list. Harry Sheasel went to another level as well. He's just incredible. Tristan Jerry was another highlight for them, coming out of nowhere sort of, and I think the departure of Todd Goldstein really paved the way to lean into him a lot more. Obviously, he had a bit more playing time and everything like that, so it was just a great year for him. Cemented himself as one of the better ruckmen in the competition, and that's a good position for them to have found something out of nothing for. And then Colby McKercher showed to me that he's going to be one of the best kicks in the league for years to come. I really love that pick for them, and there's, as I said, there's a lot of general breakout sort of guys. I know everyone sort of was high on Sheasel to begin with anyway, but I think he just showed that he's got just another level to go to in his game. And they also found another key position player in Charlie Comden. Showed he can be a pillar at either end of the ground, but probably settles in at defence. I think you've got Nick Larkey up forward, you've got a couple other guys there, so I think that you need to play him down back. I don't think they really have other key positions down, definitely not down back anyway, so best to get him going down there, I think, and cement his place down there. And I think that it's something that you couldn't see as much last year was just the building blocks, or 2 years ago, sorry, was the building blocks that they had, and I think that you could sort of start to see the vision a little bit more this year, and and I think that they've sort of continued that with that they've signalled that they want to be more competitive with some of the ins and outs they brought in over the offseason, and that they had a lot of they had a good crew of guys coming in, obviously Caleb Daniel played most of the season last year at the Doggies, and I think that he's a good season player. He's going to provide some skill out on the field for them at least. And then Jack Darling as well as the other one that came in. I'm a little bit questionable out of this one. I like the Caleb Daniel and Luke Parker, of course, coming in as well as seasoned vets. But the Jack Darling one, I think that he might be based on the last couple seasons watching West Coast. I think that I feel pretty safe to say that he's pretty done. I don't think that he's going to provide much other than, just maybe he doesn't need to provide that much. Maybe I'm overthinking it and he just needs to take one of the key defenders back there. But I think that hoping for him to contribute at a best 22 level or AFL level at the moment is maybe asking a little bit too much. I wish they had a bit more depth in terms of key position players so that he could just play as play in the VFL and then come up when needed sort of role. But they also brought in Finn O'Sullivan, obviously their top pick in the draft. Seems like he's on track to debut anyway, so I think that that's another one that is going to be a good watch for them this year. And then River Stevens came in, father-son as well of Anthony Stevens. Luke Urquhart and Matt Whitlock as well all came into the team. So they were the ins. Going out, Blake Drury, Hamish Free, Hugh Greenwood, Charlie Lazaro, Begoya Nyon, Tyler Sellers, Liam Shields, Jaden Stevenson, Curtis Taylor, and Taron Thomas, of course. So, I think just on the ins and outs, I think in their off season in general, I think that the trade in the draft on draft night in particular was genuinely a bit of a head scratcher for me. And let me preface this. I might go might be a little bit harsh, but let me preface this by saying that this is not in any way a shot at Matt Whitlock, the guy that they traded into the draft for. He may turn out to be an All-Australian for all we know. It's more of a shot at the process of the North Melbourne recruiting team. And for those of you who weren't aware, they traded their first round pick in the 2025 draft, so the next draft, for Matt Whitlock at pick 27, and that, to me, that is just a nonsense move. I get the idea that you want to improve this year, but I don't think you need to outwardly project that through oh yeah, we're going to be better, let's trade our pick, it's not going to be worth that much anyway, or it's time to get. I don't even know what the value proposition was there. You're trading a pick that is best case scenario going to be what, 5th over, as in best as in the highest you're going to get in the ladder is not that high, I wouldn't imagine. So, to signal that oh yeah, we're trying to, our first round doesn't mean much next year, we're trying to get better now. It's well, okay, that's all good and well, but don't trade that first rounder for a pick 27 in a draft. That's just a horrible value play any way you look at it, I think. And if they were going to trade that pick, or were trying to improve next year, then trade the pick in the trade period. Trade it for an actual you could have got a really good player for that pick. I'm sure that I don't know who, but a Dan Houston could have been on the cards there for you guys, and obviously that didn't happen. But a player like that could have been on the cards for that pick, and to just give an asset like that away for Matt Whitlock is just, or not, I'm not even going to say Matt Whitlock, I'll just say pick 27, because that's what it was. We don't know what he's going to be, and in all likelihood, they'll end up with the top 5 pick again this year. One of the last chances they'll have at a roll of the dice before, Tassie come into the competition, and you just punt that high-end pick for pick 27. It just makes no sense to me for a team that is still very much in the middle of a rebuild, and you want to get as much young talent in as you can. I understand that they've gone down that route for the best part of the last 5 years, but it's just a bit of a head scratcher for me still. And yeah, I don't know, if you're hell-bent on improving this year, which is what that trade sort of indicates to me that you're thinking, then yeah, just why would you not have traded it in the trade period for a seasoned player, or waited into the next off-season when you know what the pick number is going to be, when you know what the draft value is going to be, and trade it for potentially trade it for a star, or potential star, or just a good solidified young player. It just doesn't make sense to me on any front, and I would love to have been in the room when they were discussing why that was the situation. So yeah, just a very puzzling decision by the North Melbourne recruiting team, and I don't think I'll ever understand that one, and I don't think many others will either. So anyway, let's get into the expectations I have for them going into the year. Try and be a bit more positive than we've started out here. I understand that might be a bit harsh, but look, I probably haven't been the biggest fan of the North Melbourne rebuild. It's taken a while now. I don't think they're necessarily heaps closer, but they definitely have a chance to emerge from the bottom this year. They've added some adults into the room with Caleb Daniel and Luke Parker in particular. I think they're going to be able to provide some on-field guidance to the players, both premiership players, of course, and come from definitely Luke Parker comes from a very successful club. I think Western Bulldogs have been a bit suspect over the last few years, but I don't necessarily think it's going to translate into a big jump in win totals for them. But for example, that game last year that they played, I think they were 50 odd points up on Collingwood at Marvel Stadium, and they just got overrun. And that's the sort of situation where I think if they're in that position this year, where they have got a run on there, 30, 40 points up, I think that they can hold on to those games this year now with the addition of these senior guys, and also another year of experience for the younger sort of players. So I think that that's sort of why you bring those guys in. I really like that move for North Melbourne. You'd need to do that at some point. I think that they have at times lacked general leadership. They've had Jai Simpkin, they've had Luke McDonald being there, leaders of the club for a while, which I don't know, it might be a bit harsh, but it feels a little bit blind leading the blind. Those guys don't know what success really looks like in the AFL, and I think that when they've cut their list back, they didn't have enough guys who knew what it took or anything like that. So I think that having these guys in the room is really going to set the bar at a different level for the Kangaroos this year. And I think Clarko is going to be able to lean on them as well, just as like coaches out on the field as well. You just need that. You need some experience, and they finally got it. And I sort of spoke about Jack Darling as well, and I think that he was a bit of a weird get for me. I think that he showed he's pretty much out of gas, as I said earlier, but maybe it just helps Nick Larkey out enough to not get absolutely harassed each week. So if that's what it does, then I'll eat my words, and I think that I can see the possibility of that happening. I'm just not entirely. I don't have the utmost faith in that actually playing out. But look, anything to help Nick Larkey up forward is like sort of the sole key forward is going to be well needed. I think he's in need of any sort of help he can get up there. I think he's done an incredible job over the last few years to be the focal point week in, week out, get the number one, get all the attention pretty much, and there's not a whole heap of assistance at ground level either for him. So I can't sing the praises of Nick Larkey enough, and I really can't wait for this North Melbourne team to be good. And then he'll be one of the most dangerous forwards in the competition. He already is at his best. So I think that the better that North Melbourne get, I think is just going to exponentially increase how influential Nick Larkey can be on a game, and pretty excited for that to happen, and hopefully we see some glimpses of that specifically this year. And I just want to touch on the injury to George Wardlaw again. It's sort of getting concerning for me, not only for North Melbourne this year, but their prospects in the long term, just with regards to his development. And he's had these issues with his hamstrings going back to his draft year. He's had consistently sort of broken down in that specific area, and I really hope we aren't seeing the development of another Nathan Freeman situation. For those familiar with him, that Collingwood top 10 pick from however long it was, probably 10 years ago now, but just wasn't able to stay on the paddock with his hamstrings and showed a lot of promise. And I really love George Wardlaw. I reckon he's one of the could potentially be near Sheasel's level or even better. So I'm praying that he gets right this year, and it sounds like it's a pretty bad one. So they're going to bring him back pretty slowly, I'd imagine. Bit of a bummer to start the year, and again, that's sort of I don't want to keep harping on it, but that's why you don't go all in on getting a pick 27 for pick 5, because losing George Wardlaw for an extended period of the year is just going to limit your ceiling as a team. He's one of your best players, and to lose him yet again to injury is just you're not climbing out of the bottom of the ladder, I wouldn't have thought, especially with him going down. And I think they have some depth through the midfield now, at least. Obviously LDU, Harry Sheasel, Jai Simpkin as well. Is a reliable player, and some of the emergence of the other guys like Phillips and whatever. So I think that there's definitely a core midfield group here that can sort of withstand Wardlaw's injury a little bit. But I just think that they're good in their own right within the four walls of North Melbourne, but how good is that midfield really going to be compared to the rest of the competition, especially when, in my opinion, George Wardlaw just moves the needle a lot more than those other guys do. And I've sort of spoken about the pillars that they now have, and it is exciting to see it start to come together for North Melbourne a little bit after so long down the bottom. And you've got Charlie Comden, Tristan Xerri and Nick Larkey, and that's the start of a really good spine. It reminds me of Carlton a few years ago when they pieced together Harry, Charlie and Jacob Wiedering together, and obviously along the way they've added Tom de Koning as well. So I think that's definitely the start of a good spine. The midfield is starting to take shape as well. Sort of touched on that with Sheasel, LDU, please stay for North's sake as well. I really hope that he does stay in North Melbourne. And Colby McKercher, Powell, Wardlaw as well. So, they got some guys in the midfield that can start to contribute all together. And the more games they get to play together is going to be exciting. And and other guys that they have, up forward, they have some smaller forwards that are interesting, like Paul Curtis and Cam Zurhaar. Cam Zurhaar is probably not on the younger side anymore, but they definitely have some pieces that are going to be there long term for them that will be in their next finals team as well. And I think that it's just a matter of North Melbourne to find those complementary players around the sorts of guys that they have in house already. And I think they definitely have the next couple of years to figure that out, and then they should be ready to start challenging for the finals footy. They have a young core of guys coming through. that although are highly touted, we haven't seen enough from yet to necessarily classify them as being part of that core. You know, I'm talking about Finn O'Sullivan, who's yet to debut, and Zane Dersma as well. So Zane Dersma is interesting. Like, I think he showed flashes last year, but was definitely not consistent enough for me to be like, yeah, he's going to be a guy for them. He took a crazy market last year, so the potential is obviously there. I just, a bit hesitant to be putting him in the group of other guys that I've sort of spoken about who I feel a bit safer and good about. And it's going to be another year of growth, and I think that they should be absolutely more competitive this year. We saw signs of it last year, but it just didn't. They just didn't have the ability to put it together consistently for 4 quarters. I still imagine that they lose probably the majority of their games this year, but I think we see them lose in a way where they at least give themselves a chance to win games, and if things fall right for them, they like. If the more games that you're in terms of competitiveness, the more chance that you have of actually coming out on top. Like, look at Essendon last year; they were in a lot of close games, and the ledger sort of fell in their favour a few times. So the more chances you give yourself, I think that the more times you're obviously going to come out on top. And I wouldn't necessarily expect a huge jump up the ladder for them, but by that same token, if they are more competitive, then there's no reason why they can't win 5 or 6 more games this year. In what seems to be a pretty even comp going into the year. So let's go through the players to watch section as well. There's probably enough on my general expectations for the Kangas this year, and Colby McKerch is the one for me. I just love his game. You need players who can thread the needle by foot if you're going to be a good offensive team, and I think he can really set them up from whether he plays half back or through the wing, on the wing, or through the midfield. I think he's just got that versatility where he's that back half sort of player who can set you up, and I think he's that guy for them. He's in the mould of like an Errol Gould and Kitty Coleman, Carl Amon, Kane Farrell, that sort of player, obviously. All left, Kitty Coleman's right footer, but left footers in general they're just like elite by foot, and even in the Zai Wanganeen-Malira type of player as well. I'm just keen to see how and if they deploy him in the centre of the ground or whether they keep him sort of more off that half back role. And I'm very high on his kicking ability, and I think he's going to be right there. With some of their best players this year. I think he's going to really improve, and he already was one of the better players last year at times. And there's no reason for me to think that his trajectory is not going to keep going forward or going up. But and the other players to watch, not really a specific player, but just in general, what other key position players are able to announce themselves and sort of make a name for themselves and claim a spot in the team and on a consistent basis. Like we saw Toby Pink last year play a lot, and he's fine as a stopgap sort of guy. Aiden Core as well is another stopgap sort of guy. But they really need those positions to take the next step. They've had a few locked in, like I said, with a few really good ones locked in with Charlie Comden, Tristan Sherry, and Nick Larkey, of course. But I think the remainder of you still need a stronger group of key position players, I think, overall. And those remaining spots are sort of it's yet to be seen who's going to claim those spots. So I'll be keeping an eye on to see if anyone sort of emerges for the Kangas in those roles. And the same way that Charlie Comden sort of did last year. He was sort of a bit of an unknown quantity going into the year, and then just sort of announced himself as I'm going to play full back for you guys for the next 10 years. So hopefully they get another one of them. As for the actual projection for North Melbourne going into the year, I've got them ranked 17th in my power rankings for the year, and also to finish up 17th on the ladder after going through the fixture. So I think that is that's definitely not the ceiling for this team. I just think given they're working a few new players in, I think that they're, as I said, going to be more competitive. I think there's going to be quite a gap between them and Richmond, who I've got at 18th. I don't think that they're going to be in the same tier at all. But I just still think that some of the teams above them that you might think are going to be in their groupings, like West Coast, who haven't recorded their season preview yet, but I can see them obviously jumping West Coast, for example. But I think West Coast have the advantage of playing in the West and potentially getting a few more wins that way as well. So that's sort of why I've set them at, power rank them at 17 going into the year. I still think that they're a long way off. They're still working a lot of kids through the system. They don't have a lot of key position talent other than those big three that I sort of stated. So, and also you're coupling that with the George Wardlaw injury. I think that there's going to be a few struggles again this year, but I will acknowledge that there is a possibility that they are in a few more games, and it falls their way a few times, so they could absolutely jump some of that teams like St Kilda or someone like that as well. So I think for now I'm going to keep them at 17, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take the leap. They have had enough picks where some of these guys could all click at once now, and take a bit of a rise up the ladder. So wouldn't be surprised, but that's probably just me hedging my bets a little bit too. So that being said, thanks for listening to the pod. This has been North Melbourne Season Preview, and we'll catch you next time.